Velvet Boys.
You are tuned in to Black Death 101, where the streets talk and the reels roll. This is more than a podcast, baby. It's a revolution with the rhythm. 101, baby. You're home for the baddest films of the 1970s and beyond. Now let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Black Death 101 podcast, where the streets talk and the reels roll. We dissect our favorite Blaxploitation films that saved Hollywood and still influence it today. I am your host, Nubius Black, and giving him 5 on the right-hand side, my brother from another mother, Johnny Deth. What's up, man? What's going on?
Hey, Nubius, cool cats and funketeers. Glad to be back this week. And this week, oh man, we have a movie for you. And we also are going to have our Best Pimp Award from last year. We're going to save that for the end of the show. So make sure you stick around because we're going to have a lot of fun today. But today's movie, baby, it's heavy.
Topical.
But we're talking about one of those movies where when the credits roll, you don't just say, man, that was a good flick. You sit there for a second and think, how in the hell did they get away with making this in 1973? And once you hear what happened to the movie afterwards, you start wondering if maybe they didn't get away with it.
Exactly.
Because we're talking about Ivan Dixon's 1973 political powder keg, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. And baby, this one is different.
Literally, as a young man, when I heard about this film, the name kind of make me go, the title, I'm like, this ain't for me. I mean, it sounds like it's very, like slapstick comedy. You know what I mean? With a black lead in it.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the name, The Spook. I didn't know until I got older that was a term that spies used from one another, that they were spooks, they were ghosts. They infiltrated. They were there. You never knew they were there, and they did what spies do. This is no James Bond movie, by the way. This movie is raw, it's real, and it's based on real things that are happening in the community, both black and white. The writer of this book, they fucking blacklisted this guy after he wrote the book. What was his first name? I know his name is Greenlee.
Sam Greenlee, he actually went to 40 different publishers, couldn't get it published. He meets the head of a new publishing house in the UK. It gets published there and the book takes off. At first printing in the UK, copies of that somehow wind up at J. Edgar Hoover's FBI.
Right.
There's a lot of cover on this one.
There's a lot of stuff. We do a lot of light shit, but this one is not. It has some light moments, but man, it is so fucking. I can't even say it's 70s serious because now it seems like the politics of the 70s have reemerged in the politics of 2026. So everything you see in this movie, if you're bold enough to watch this fucking movie, because you got to have a certain type of fucking mindset to sit through and watch this film. And when you watch it, you're going to realize everything they're talking about. I mean, from the smallest, minute situations to the big, explosive expositions, you're going to go, wow, this happened last week.
Folks, to understand this movie, you've got to put yourself back in America in 1973. Richard Nixon is in the White House. Watergate is starting to stink. The Vietnam War has ripped the country apart. The average age of the average soldier in Vietnam, 19 years old. And they're coming back in body bags. The Black Panthers have been infiltrated, surveilled, and attacked. Martin Luther King is gone. Malcolm X is gone. Fred Hampton is gone. Bobby Kennedy is gone. And while the FBI officially shut down COINTELPRO back in 1971, the world that created it hadn't disappeared. Black political organizations had spent years being watched infiltrated and disrupted. People knew it. People felt it. So that's the political atmosphere. Now walk down to your neighborhood movie theater. That's a whole different scene. You got Pam Grier tearing it up in Coffee, Fred Williamson in Black Caesar, Tamara Dobson strutting onto the scene as Cleopatra Jones. The Mac is out there doing its thing. Bruce Lee kicking everybody's ass in Enter the Dragon. James Bond is even running around Harlem in Live and Let Die, and black audiences are finally seeing black heroes on screen who don't ask permission. They fight back. They look good doing it. They got the clothes. They got the cars. These films, they've got the music. And then the spook who sat by the door walks into the room. And this movie says, forget one cool brother fighting one crooked cop. Forget one hustler taking down one bad dude. What if a black man joins the system, studies everything the system knows, brings that knowledge back to his people? Oh, baby, now we're someplace else.
No shit. Because that was the whole premise. He even kind of said it to the guys who were training him that I'm going to go back to my neighborhood, work with a rights organization, for housing and voters' rights and that whole chestnut. So he was coming in there. He learned everything he could learn. I mean, everything. Hell, he taught them shit that they didn't know. Freeman taught the CIA shit that they didn't even know existed. Of course, they were giving them the same old. You hear it all the time. I hear it maybe once a month, once every 2 months. They gave him the old, he's so well spoken. I didn't know he still worked here. They're all great athletes. They keep pushing that shit. They're good at athletics. So they're complimenting the black man, but at the same time dismissing him. And Freeman is fine with that shit because he knows he's going to use that as a weapon. There's a line in this film where he says, the most dangerous black man to a white man is a black man with a broom and a mop and a bucket because you don't matter. They don't even think about you anymore as a human being. They think you are fucking basically property like slavery, or if at the least, you're fucking furniture. You're invisible. No, you're there to do a job that the white man doesn't want to do. And that's fine for his applications because he figures that's the spy part. James Bond ain't never played no fucking janitor. James Bond never parked cars.
No.
James Bond was never a garbage man. James Bond never worked in the hood doing community service. This movie kept with everything you said prior of the great action hero that was Black Brown and flipped it on his head because this motherfucker, dude, he had some shit he wanted to get off his fucking chest. And it wasn't a fucking revenge deal where it was just him against the system. He was trying to not even try to beat the system. He just tried to make a level playing field. He said, this war will not be won, but it will have a stalemate. And when it has a stalemate, that's when the real conversation can start.
Hallelujah. Now, we mentioned the title, Spook Who Sat by the Door. Spook, as you said, old slang for spy. It's obviously also a racial slur, but
Right.
sitting by the door is a jab at tokenism. You hire a black employee, you stick them someplace where everybody can see them and say, oh, look, we're integrated. And that joke, as you said, the invisible black man becomes the entire foundation of the movie. White America sees Dan Freeman, but it never really sees him. Dan Freeman, the story begins when a senator is making noise about the fact that he may not win re-election because he's losing the black vote. So he realizes the CIA has no black officers. The agency gets embarrassed. He makes a big stink to put black person in there. They decide, okay, we're going to recruit some Negroes, but they're not exactly rolling out the red carpet. The training is brutal. The expectation is that the black candidates will fail, and most of them do, except for our man Dan Freeman, played by Lawrence Cook. And Dan is one of the coolest characters that we've ever covered on this show because he's not cool in the Shaft way. He's not walking around announcing how bad he is. He's quiet, polite, observant. He knows exactly when to smile, when to shut up, exactly when to let somebody think they're smarter than he is. And while everyone around him thinks this guy should just be grateful to be here, he's learning weapons, communications, intelligence,
Bomb making.
psychology, guerrilla tactics, organization. He learns how governments destabilize people, how you build networks, how you break networks. He's sitting there soaking up the whole damn playbook. And the beautiful part is they're teaching it to him themselves. Eventually, he's the last black candidate left. The CIA can now say, see, we're integrated, mission accomplished. What do they do with their newly trained officer? They put him in charge of the Xerox machine to
The
begin with.
Xerox machine.
And then he's in charge of duplication. And then they also turn him into like a public relations piece. He's the black guy they can show visitors, the brother by the door.
Right.
And he plays along because every second they underestimate him, he's learning more. And he stays there for about 5 years. Then he leaves Washington and he goes home to Chicago. On paper, respectable social worker, nice jobs, nice clothes, nice apartment, good pay, nothing suspicious here. But once he's back in the neighborhood, he reconnects with a street gang called the Cobras. Only Dan doesn't want to help these guys become better gangsters. He wants to turn them into a disciplined, revolutionary organization.
And he does just that. And to add to what you said, I wrote here, and it's kind of, fucked up because it's basically saying, welcome to be the first black CIA operative. Now get your black ass into the mailroom. And that's exactly what they did. They took this guy with all this promise, all this skill. They knew he overshot every metric that they put out there that even the white guys couldn't fucking beat. And he beat them. He even took falls when he was doing hand-to-hand combat with the judo instructor, where the judo instructor basically told him, you need to quit because I'm so much better than you and I'm making you look bad. And he was literally taking bumps for this guy. He was literally losing training bouts until he finally said, all right, let's turn this shit on his head. And he fucked that dude up and choked his ass out where the fat. He could have killed him. He could have judoed his ass to death because, back in the 70s, in the 60s, everybody loved judo. Judo was like the thing. You chop a bitch in the neck, and that was that. But Freeman was such a fucking well-written character. Not just his character, the way the movie was paced, they could have easily fell into the whole, let's show some action, we want action, ATC, boom, 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 ION. They didn't go that route. They built it layer upon layer. Where he infiltrated the CIA. Then he went into the gangs and kind of infiltrated that too. Where he was like, you guys think y'all guys are tough shit. When he was at the pool hall, that scene. And they could have easily just tried to attack him. Then he goes, well, meet me in the alleyway. And he fought the way, like he said, I'm going to fight you the way Whitey is going to fight you. And he fought them dudes and beat the shit out of 6 guys, took all their guns and goes, then what do you do? And they didn't have an answer. He says, I have an answer to that if this happens to you. You just need to fucking pay attention and follow me. That's when the ball got rolling. I don't know if you picked up on this, but I believe he knew that the prostitute that he was meeting was working along with the CIA as well, because they kept interviewing her. And they kept trying to find dirt on her.
Well, they first... Yes, the FBI and CIA, first they interview her to try to find dirt on Dan. And then we're not sure how, but she ends up as the mistress to the general that's running the CIA, whom he used to work for. So he's got an inside girl in there, man. And this guy, He's not interested in being Slaughter or Shaft. He's building other people. He's creating a system. He's teaching. It's more dangerous because you can arrest one man.
Right,
You can kill one guy. But if that guy's already taught 20 other people what he knows, you've got a big fucking problem. And he starts training the Cobras in weapons, communication, guerrilla tactics. But he also, and this is even more important, he teaches them how to think. These guys, they're not portrayed as idiots. They're very angry young men from the neighborhood. They've got energy. They've been taking pot shots at the cops with little 22 pistols from the rooftops. He tells them that's like using a pea shooter on a rhinoceros's hide. And he tells them he'll teach them what weapons to use to shoot at the cops. These guys have got intelligence and courage, but what they didn't have was an organization. And he gives them structure. He teaches them running around angry isn't enough. You need discipline, planning, you need patience. And one of the most interesting characters is Willie. He's a light-skinned enough that people assume he could just blend in.
Because I wrote down on my notes, I'm like, is Willie a white guy or what? But he went through his spiel where he was like, I was raised a nigger, I was born a nigger, and I'm going to die a nigger. And he was down with the cause. And that Freeman was smart enough to go, with his complexion and with his hair, he could blend in. He's the perfect fucking end guy. Like, go rob a bank and steal all this money because they're going to be looking for a white guy. And that was genius. When you think about it, that was genius.
It was brilliant. They get the light-skinned members of the gang, but they put Caucasian hair wigs on them. They dress them in like square business suits. They go in, they rob the bank, they hop into a van, and the ones that have straight hair, they put on afro wigs. They suddenly get all soul brothered up, hop on out, get into the car, and they're away. No one's looking for a black street gang. They think it's a bunch of white gangsters. The movie doesn't pretend Black America is just one big group where everybody thinks the same. You've got different attitudes about race and class.
Different look.
His friend, Dawes, he went to college with this guy. They're close buddies. Dawes, what is he? He's working with the police. I'm not sure if he's FBI, but he was working with the Chicago police to try to stem the crime with the street gangs. Everyone is coming at these problems from a different direction.
From a different angle.
But Dawson was played by J.A. Preston, and he became this top cop. But this is one of the best dynamics in the movie. You got two black guys, the same city, same America, but completely different ideas about how to survive in it. Dawson believes in working in the system.
In the system.
Dan believes the system is designed to protect itself. And because they're friends, the movie doesn't turn this into some cartoon. Dawson isn't Uncle Tom with a badge. Dan is actually secretly Uncle Tom, which is his revolutionary name. But he's not just some screaming revolutionary. They're both intelligent men.
But they have different ways of attacking this situation. And you're exactly right, where Dawson's like, maybe I can fix things from the inside, where Freeman's like, that's some bullshit. We tried that. I went to the upper echelon. I was way above you. You're basically working with the cops. I'm telling you that this system is corrupt from the toes to the top of the head. That's where their friendship started getting friction. But also, I realized watching this last night, J.A. Preston, think about this. He is the fucking well-spoken, well-dressed man with the fucking synthetic hand that owned a haberdashery that trained Remo Williams. Remember that movie, Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins?
No.
That's him. Yeah, but he looked like a giant in this film compared to Remo Williams, where he was, helping training that guy. That's him. And with his delivery and the way
who played the little Korean guy? The little Korean
that was a white dude. Of course it was a white guy. He was on Cabaret.
Yeah.
He was an actor in
Right.
Cabaret.
He won the.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually a really good
where
actor.
everybody's
And
bitching about a black woman playing a Greek goddess, if you will.
I loved her as Athena. What can I
You're
say?
bitching about that, but it's okay. You know what I mean? To change shit up when certain people want us to change shit up. And it is what it is. We talk about the shit that's happening in today's films as well. So this is not just a 70s thing. This is fucking, it's a worldview thing. And also, I don't know if you noticed the lady, Paula Kelly, who played the prostitute. She was in a lot of good shit too. She was in Uptown Saturday Night with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. And she was also in Soylent Green with Chuck Connors. She was Chuck Connors' old lady. Remember? And she had fucking strawberry jam or some shit.
Yes.
And Charlton Heston found the spoon and started sucking. He's sucking on his spoon like a fucking nut. But dude, they don't make movies like this no more, bro. I'm sorry. I mean, I like what we're getting today, but you know, today is basically cruise control and lazy, in my opinion. Where back then you had to work for what you got.
I think we got one film last year that shares some of the spirit of this. That would have been One Battle After Another, which is a movie I dearly loved last year. Right. There's another really good actress in this, Janet Leigh. She plays Joy. She's Freeman's old sweetheart from college. So she also knows Dawson. The doctor,
right?
Yeah, she marries a doctor. She's got a home. She's got the nice, quiet life, what she considers something normal, because Dan had chosen another road. And that matters because the movie doesn't let the revolution become consequence-free fantasy. He pays a price for the life he's chosen.
Right.
As you said, he's got Paula Kelly. What was her name? Dahomey Queen?
Yeah.
Great name in this movie.
And it was like, you look like a queen, an African queen from a book that he had. And he basically, you could see her thinking, like her metamorphosis was there. Yes, she was a prostitute. Yes, she was a street worker. But he was basically saying, you could be more. Because you look like this woman and she was more. You can. He never told her that being a prostitute was bad. He never told her that going on the stroll was a bad thing. She goes, if you're going to do it for a cause, not just for a paycheck. And I thought, wow, that's some deep ass shit. You know what I'm saying? She ended up doing that because she ended up becoming a spy of the spy.
Yes.
And that's how it rolled.
Great movie. The relationships with these women, they remind you that he isn't operating in some like fantasy. Everything is happening inside ordinary black life in bars and apartments, neighborhoods. That's part of what makes the movie feel so unsettling, in my opinion. It feels
lived in.
Close.
Very lived in.
Now let's talk about the director, Ivan Dixon. A lot of people knew Ivan Dixon as Kinchlow. He was Hogan's second in command on Hogan's Heroes. And I actually met the man once.
Oh, that's him? He directed this? The black guy?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he also directed Trouble Man.
Right. We got to do Trouble Man, too, because the star of this film is
absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Same director, star. Trouble Man is an amazing movie.
Soundtrack. Come on, Marvin Gaye, the soundtrack, bruh. Oh. Yeah. We're getting Trouble Man out there for you folks. Not the new one. Not that I'm bashing Michael Jai White, but Michael Jai White doesn't hold shit to the original Trouble Man. No, not a thing.
So, Ivan Dixon, actor, director, he was really, in my opinion, a very serious filmmaker. As we said, he directed Trouble Man, but with Spook Who Sat by the Door, he gets his hands on some rather, explosive material. What I really like about what he does with it is he doesn't turn it into a cartoon. Right. If you think about how easily this movie could have gone off the rails, picture big afros, machine guns, everyone shouting revolutionary slogans, wah-wah guitar going 24 hours a day. Dixon doesn't do that. No, he keeps it controlled.
Grounded.
almost like a political procedural, and that makes it so effective because Dan Freeman, he rarely has to tell you he's dangerous. You already know. Now, before Dixon, there was Sam Greenlee. Greenlee wrote the novel the movie is based on. He had worked in the U.S. Foreign Service. He knew the bureaucracy. He knew diplomacy. He knew how American power operated overseas. He used this experience to write the novel. It came out in 1969. As we said, 40 publishers turned it down. There's no surprise there. It's not a book saying, give the black man a fair chance. It's a book
Nah.
asking what happens if the black man gets inside, learns the system, and decides to use that knowledge against it. A very different conversation. He wasn't really writing about prejudice. He was writing about power, who has it, how they use it, how they protect it, and what happens when the people underneath them learn the same techniques. This was not an easy movie to get made. I mean, come on. Imagine pitching this thing to a major studio in the early 70s.
Yeah. Also, the fact that the film is required viewing and the book is required reading in Quantico. To this day,
Yes.
to this day, you are supposed to read the book and watch this movie. And sadly, it's teaching white agents how to understand how black people actually operate when organized. That, along with COINTELPRO, how to disrupt the environment, how to displace the people, and how to discredit the fucking figurehead. All of that shit is being played out in real life politics to this day. I'm not going to bore you with bullshit of the past. I'm going to just use one small, insignificant, doesn't harm anybody. Using COINTELPRO and using the way people in power think. We had a black president. That was bad enough that white people couldn't handle. But you had a black president who came out to a fucking minor press conference after stopping a fucking global catastrophe with an oil spill wearing a tan suit. They took that tan suit and turned it into something that was way more dangerous than the ecological effects of an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico that fed millions of people. That took a fucking backseat to a black man wearing a tan suit. I want y'all to think about that. When you look at this show that we're putting out for you, I don't want you to think that we're making this shit up if you're not of age. Go back and look, and you're going to say to yourself, that's it? They didn't catch him in a fucking room with a boy? They didn't catch him in a fucking hotel with his prostitute? They didn't catch him stealing money and skimming off the top? Nope. He wore a fucking tan suit, and they weaponized that. That was proof that anything is possible in the world of geopolitics, especially with the CIA and FBI. And this movie proves it.
Absolutely. Now, we should talk a little bit about how the movie got made. Initially, every studio turns it down. They raise the money grassroots style. Black businesses, they start shooting. Richard Daley, mayor of Chicago, refuses to allow them to shoot anywhere in the city. The movie takes place there. So what do? They go guerrilla style. One incident involves they need some shots on the on the elevated trains. And this is landmarky in Chicago. Everyone knows these trains. Can't shoot that somewhere else. So they gather up all their equipment. They go to train station. They buy tickets. They go up. They wait on the platform. They turn on the cameras. They shoot their scenes. They get on the train and continue shooting. Total expense that day for location, $8 in train tickets. That fucking took guts, man. I love this shit.
And that's what makes those films of that time fucking priceless. When I was watching that train scene, I was thinking of a movie you turned me on to this day. Dude, you turned me on to so many films that I never heard of, or if I did hear of them, I didn't give them a second thought. Sorcerer. Such a fucking guerrilla-style shot in non-Hollywood. Today, Hollywood would take that movie, gloss it up, make it pretty, but nah. William Friedkin's like, yo, fuck all that. We ain't taking no fucking, we're not getting permits for shit. We're just gonna start filming stuff. And I think it's better to me. I think The Exorcist is one of the scariest films I've ever seen as a child, but I think Sorcerer is probably one of the best films I've ever seen filmed, period.
Yeah, period. Sorcerer, just an interesting aside. When they're shooting in the jungle, it's raining. It's a rainforest. It doesn't stop raining the entire shoot. So they take a lens cap over the camera and they motorize it so it spins. So as water hits the lens, the inertia sprays it off.
Right.
So they shoot the whole thing in a downpour. That's part of the look of that movie. And in this film, Chicago, the shots they grab gives it a reality that Hollywood backlot never could. You feel the streets. Politically, Chicago had enormous weight. Only a few years earlier, Black Panther leader Fred Hampton had been killed there during a police raid. So audiences in 1973 watching a movie about black revolutionaries organizing in Chicago were not watching this in some historical vacuum. The city meant something.
And they
then
lived it.
They go across the state lines to Gary, Indiana, where they had just elected a black mayor who welcomes them to shoot in Gary, Indiana, which fills in the rest of the film for Chicago, and it works beautifully. But once the movie comes out, it opens pretty damn well, and then it disappears. It comes out, it's booked into theaters, and then very quickly it's gone. The bookings, they dry up. The prints, they're not available. It basically falls out of normal circulation. And Sam Greenlee always believed that this was not an accident. He said that he knew for a fact that the FBI applied pressure and that theater owners were visited by FBI agents, discouraged from showing the movie. And I really want to keep this story straight. There's no publicly established FBI memo saying, get that movie out of theaters. There's no smoking gun, but I absolutely believe it because you've got to understand
FBI
the environment. The FBI had had absolutely done worse. They'd infiltrated and disrupted black political organizations with COINTELPRO, and that's history. And all those same people were still in place 2 years later. We're talking about a movie that openly shows a black CIA operative teaching urban guerrilla warfare to kids in the street. So was our government interested in the movie? I have no trouble believing they were interested.
I have no trouble. The FBI, dude, they do it. They did it then, and they do it now. They have FBI agents infiltrating Black Lives Matter rally, No Kings rally, any of that shit. That's what their job is. And, and then when you want to leave the comforts of the United States, the CIA takes over. And that's just a fucking fact. And if no one believes that, you're living in a fucking fantasy world, I'm here to tell you, my friend. And just the fact that, we had a film about a spy being trained to spy by spies to spy on spies. Think about that. That is not like no Orwellian wordplay. A spy organization trained a spy who learned how to spy on the spies that were spying on them. And that is a fact. That's how this movie went. And this was based on a story that was not CIA, but the FBI. It was a brother who actually was the first black FBI agent who told this story to Greenlee, and Greenlee wrote his story and he just upped to the notch to the CIA. But none of this shit, when you watch it, it's a fictional account, but you can't sit there and go, oh, this will never happen, because here we are. You know, it happened.
Yeah.
You know,
I tell you, the atmosphere is prime for something like this to start percolating. And, you know, once the movie disappears after being out for like a week and a half, it's gone. Then the story gets stranger, because for years the negative was considered lost. You could occasionally find like a bootleg VHS of this. But what had happened was that Ivan Dixon, seeing what was going on, he held on to the negative of the movie. He took it to the film vault and he placed it in storage under a different title.
right.
There are stories that it was mislabeled and lost, but no, because in 2004, when someone was finally interested in producing a DVD of this film, Dixon drove him over to the film warehouse and pulled the negative out. They struck a print. And I know there's a 4K out there somewhere. I know there was a decent DVD. You can find this on YouTube. It's a good copy.
Right.
It's a great movie. The result is still remarkable. One of the most politically explosive black films in the 70s became just impossible to see. Think of all the films from this era that stayed in circulation. Shaft, Superfly, Coffee, The Mac, goes on and on and on. They show up on television, home video,
Right.
midnight shows, video stores, but Spook becomes a ghost.
It came too close. It was too close, because the reality of the fact is the reality of the fact. All those films you said before are quote unquote black fantasies. Black people wanting to have that fantasy of control, that fantasy of getting revenge, that fantasy of, you know, taking what they believed is theirs. Where this film here, this is too close to comfort, man. White people weren't having it, especially the government. I'm surprised the film got made. I really am. It was not just like crappy acting and they just threw it together. The acting is pretty fucking on par. You got like shit where it couldn't be like a straight action beat, because they had to lay the groundwork, and the groundwork was the important part. The whole training montages and all that.
Yes. You know, interestingly enough, when they needed money to finish the movie and they needed a distributor, they just cut the action parts together and made United Artists think they were getting a straight blaxploitation film. And this is where it gets interesting, especially for this podcast. Nubius, is The Spook Who Sat by the Door a blaxploitation movie? I say yeah, but also not exactly.
It is
It's a
comes
from the era.
blaxploitation movie, mainly because it's based on a black character and black people's situations of that time. Again, till today. But it's also a film that I think could be looked at as almost like a semi-autobiographical account of how the CIA worked. You know, how any company worked. I worked in companies where they were like, yo, we need a black person here. Does he know how to do the job? Does not matter. It's all for fucking optics. And optics to say one thing while not affecting their bottom line. And that is exactly what this film was. But these characters not just did not affect the bottom line. They fought against the system. And having the hero being confronted by his friend at the end of this film and arguing over their philosophies and end goals of how to get black people equality in the system that existed, and a gun goes off. No one aimed that gun at one another. The gun went off, and I thought that was smart. Because it ain't like fucking Freeman wanted to kill his friend. And they leave it open.
Right.
We don't even know if the fucking friend shot himself by mistake. It was a tussle for the gun. The gun went off. His friend died who worked for the fucking cops. And Freeman, who was devastated by that, but had to put on that facade when his men came in. And he was like, yo, take him out of here. Get rid of this body. And I expect you guys to do no less if someone else in our crew tries to fucking break up what we're trying to do. I love that fucking ending, man. When the credits rolled, I was like, holy shit, it's
so
over
good.
already?
Yeah. Freaking just a phenomenal film.
Great. This movie, again, I don't know if you know about this, you probably do, but it touched a lot of fucking notes where my parents used to tell me when I was a kid, you know, they were terrified of German Shepherds. Why? And then I grew up watching these fucking clips of German Shepherds being sicked on black people who are protesting for their civil rights. And what did they show in this movie during the riot? Which is probably one of the best film riot scenes I've ever seen. And it showed the German Shepherds. It showed that something as most white folks would look at and never even think about, that fucking fear of that type of dog, it still permeates to this day. Black folks, you know, they run around and they have their fucking dogs. I'm one of them, of having bully breeds, bull terriers, pit bulls, whatever. And they don't have that same fear. You give them a German Shepherd, and it's almost genetically inclined for them to recoil from that motherfucker, because those were the dogs in power that were ripping apart black bodies back then. They showed that. They had the balls to show that. And it amazes me, again, that I didn't look up who the actor, I know who the director was, but not who he was. And that this motherfucker was from Hogan's Heroes, working on the fucking on the radio. Because let's face it, World War II was won by white men. Black people had nothing to do with it. Fuck the Red Tails. Fuck Tuskegee Airmen. Fuck all that shit. You know, that shit is fantasy, according to fucking today's policies. But, yeah.
Right. And you know what? That ties back to the movie. They underestimate these young black men. They don't believe that these guys could possibly be organized enough or disciplined enough or smart enough to pull off sophisticated operations. And that racism becomes a weakness.
Right.
It's the same racism that allowed Freeman to survive inside the CIA. It prevents the authorities. And up until his old girlfriend mentioned something to Dawson, it prevented his best friend from seeing the threat, because for the most part, these institutions won't see a threat because they don't respect the people behind it.
Exactly.
And that's a brilliant idea.
And when you think
racism
about
doesn't
it,
only injure the people being targeted by it, racism can make the person who believes it stupid.
And it happens in every story, from ancient African stories to ancient Greek mythologies to you name it. It always takes a woman. It's always a woman that says something that sparks all the fucking calamity. And that's what happened. She was like, yeah, I'm married, but my husband lost his job, and you don't seem to be sad about this, even though I'm throwing the poontang your way as well. You know what I mean? It's like, she tries to have it both ways, and he even said that. You cannot have it both ways. And once she heard him spout his rhetoric that he sounded like in college, she tells the fucking cop, and the cop puts it all together. And the funny part to me, in closing of this show, it's always black on black crime. Black people kill black people. Why do they do that? Yet you never hear Chinese on Chinese crime, or white people on white people crime, or Hispanics on Hispanic crime. Because black on black crime paints the African American as not just the other, that they're the problem. And the fucking reality of it all is, if I live in an all-white neighborhood, I'm pretty sure black people ain't killing the white people in this neighborhood. White people are killing the white people in that neighborhood. But if you say it enough, like they always say, it becomes true. And this movie fucking says it. It shows you how that whole take on crime statistics, and, you know, they always talk about, I must feel special because I'm black, because there's statistics for everything that being black encapsulates. If I was a fucking street shooter or a school shooter or a serial killer, not so much, especially if I was white. You don't get those statistics for a black serial killer, but you won't get them for anybody else. And this film is very closely connected to those things. And even though they don't touch on it, but if you watch this film, you'll figure it out for yourself if you have an ounce of common sense. So I tell you, The Spook Who Sat by the Door is one of the greatest films that was never released into a wide publicist because of the government shutting it down. You got to go out and see it.
Absolutely.
It's on YouTube. Sit back. If you have any fucking wondering of how things really work, this movie is as close as you're going to fucking get. This ain't Born Identity with all the fucking brainwashing, superpowered motherfuckers running around there fighting crime. No. This is just a real dude who learned and was educated by the system to use the system against the system. Am I correct?
Amen. And you are correct. And just a word on the ending. It's not one of those endings where the hero wins, the bad guys lose, everyone goes home happy. The point is bigger than the character. By the end, the knowledge is spread. Other people have learned. Other people are organizing. And that's really what the movie is saying. Dan is not the revolution. He is the teacher. And once the information gets out, you can't put it back in the box.
Exactly. So we want you to watch this film, come back, like, subscribe, share. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, Apple, Spotify. We're video now. You get to see our ugly mugs. So there you go. People asked me in the last
We're on
show.
video on Spotify, Spotify and YouTube. I've contacted Apple. We're waiting for them to allow us to be video there. But in the meantime, watch us here on YouTube or Spotify.
Yeah, we're
or
getting
listen
it
to us
in.
in the car, everywhere else. And with now that we're done with the movie, who gets the Citation Award last year for Best Pimp? Because we had several.
Come on, man. And we had a lot of
There's
good
only
pimps in this fucking run-up. A lot of great pimps. We had that cool pimp from fucking Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Black. We had pimps from Coffee. We had a bevy of great pimps. But I'm saying this award needs to go to King George.
George.
And if you think it's King George, if you don't know him from anything,
he's the man.
Imagine the chief of police from RoboCop wearing a fucking cape. That's King George.
Yes. And a hat big enough for a whole family of midgets.
Yeah, but he died a horrible death. You gotta fucking say that, man. He died the most.
Yeah, that's
out of all
a
the films
brutal
we have
end.
seen so far, he died the most brutal death I've ever seen. But King George is our pimp of the year.
Oh, yes, King George.
I'm gonna get you sucker. That, in case y'all didn't know that. I think next week, being that we did a revolutionary film this week, we should do a revolutionary film next week, but a little lighter, a little bit more on the fantasy, but it's very important. And the fact that you never seen this film makes it even cooler that I dug it up. I think we should see Abar, the Black Superman. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Watch it, and you're going to be like, holy shit, this is a fucking great compendium to the film we just seen, Spook Who Sat by the Door. Spook Who Sat by the Door is more on a realistic fucking front. A-Bar, more of a fantasy front. Same fucking purpose, Jack. Same fucking purpose. I think we should see that next week and then see where it takes us from there. What do you think?
I agree with you, absolutely. And listen, if your folks are still here with us at this point in the show, click that subscribe button. Don't cost nothing. This way you'll get notified when the new episodes come out. Feel free to leave a comment. We read all the comments. If there's a movie you want us to cover, let us know. We'll get right on it. And with that, I think we'll see you guys again.
Same black time.
Same black channel. Peace!
America, baby. Funny thing about history, sometimes it don't repeat. Sometimes it just changes clothes. Turn on the television, look out in the street. Tell me what year it is. Gas line curling halfway down the block. Nixon on the television watching the clock. Young folks marching, old folks scared. Everybody asking where the truth disappeared. Afros high and fists in the sky. Brothers getting watched just for asking why. They said, stay cool, boy, play the game. Learn the rules, smile, remember every name. But there was something moving underneath the floor, something they couldn't lock behind the government door. Knowledge came home with a brand new plan. You can teach a man the system, but you can't own the man.
It's 1973 again.
Can you feel that rhythm coming round the bend?
Same old pressure with a brand new name.
New faces, baby, but I know that game. It's
1973 again.
people in the streets saying,
Not this time, my friend.
turn that fear into something to say.
Soul power.
Rising again today.
Soul power.
Rising again today.
Soul power.
Back then they had fire stacked floor to ceiling. Men in dark suits trying to catalog a feeling. Who you talking to? Where you been tonight? Who taught you to stand? Who told you your rights? Now the file fits right inside your hand.
Everybody watching, everybody in the land.
Headlines flashing faster than your eyes can see.
Truth gets chopped into a 30-second feed.
But the people who remember are hard to fool. And knowing how it works is a dangerous tool. That was Freeman's lesson. Slick and cold, get inside. Learn the machinery, then bring that knowledge home.
1973 again.
Can you feel that rhythm coming round the bend?
Same old pressure with a brand new name.
New faces, baby, but I know that game. It's
1973 again.
people in the streets saying,
Not this time, my friend.
turn that fear into something to say.
Soul power.
Rising again today. Who taught you?
We taught ourselves.
Who saves?
We save ourselves.
Who owns tomorrow?
Nobody yet.
Then straighten your back, baby.
And don't you forget.
They can give you a badge. They can give you a desk. They can tell you made it, 'cause you passed their test. But if you walk through the door and forget where you've been, brother, you didn't beat the game. The game beats you. So here we are again beneath another sun. Different calendar, same questions undone. Crowds in the avenue, signs held high. Young blood looking power straight in the eye. No king on the corner, no savior on the screen. Freedom ain't a slogan and it sure ain't clean. It's neighbors teaching neighbors how to recognize the play. Building something stronger than the fear of yesterday. does something, baby. Power studies you.
So study power.
The system watches you.
So watch the system.
And when somebody finally lets you in the room, don't just enjoy the air conditioning. Learn where the switches are.
It's 1973 again.
But this time,
we've seen the movie.